everybody, and welcome to Selling to Small Businesses and Boutiques. I'm Courtney Kubitza with Stahls TV, and today we're going to talk a little bit, or a lot, I guess, about how to sell to small businesses and boutiques. And so as apparel decorators, there's a big profit opportunity with selling to small businesses and boutiques, and we're going to talk about how to reach that. There's two opportunities that we're going to focus on in today's class. The first one is going to be the most obvious, really. It's the opportunity of selling to the employees or selling employee apparel to these small businesses and these boutiques in your area. And we'll talk about how heat printing makes perfect sense for this because of the low quantities that are needed. So that's kind of the standard opportunity that we always think about with decorators, and we think about selling to this opportunity. The second one that we're going to look at is going to focus on printing apparel and actually reselling it in these businesses and these boutiques. So how can we create a constant revenue stream from selling apparel to these companies and making it profitable for both of us to kind of create a partnership or a joint ventureship together, even with a private labeling brand or just printing their apparel. And so we'll talk about all of those opportunities as well. So we've got a pretty robust class here today. Now we're going to start with the most basic and really just understanding how to print apparel for employees. One thing about small businesses is it's certainly a niche to go after, but it's very different from niches like schools, spirit wear, cheer and dance, where a lot of them have the same interests. When we look at small businesses or we look at boutiques, we're looking at brands that companies have identified with and they need to continue to identify with even in the apparel that their employees are wearing. So you're not going to sell the same thing to a small business like a high-end restaurant that you're going to sell to a clothing boutique or that you're going to sell to a financial company. And so the first thing that you need to do is understand the customer base within that small business that you're going after. What's their brand image? Is it trendy? Are they going to want garments that are really fashionable, really hip, or decoration that's really hip? Is it more of a premium where they're going to want more of a higher end clientele and they're going to be focused on maybe wovens or shirts that are very prestigious in their garment selection and their decoration? Those are some things to consider. So we'll look at two examples of that. But the first thing that you want to do is make sure you're choosing a blank that fits that customer. And so if I'm going after a customer that I know is high-end, I want to choose the high-end blanks that are going to look like premium blanks from either a higher-end supplier, or I'm going to want to make sure the garments that I'm pitching are those wovens or those button-ups or maybe a new polyester activewear zip-up that's going to look a little bit more premium. On the flip side, we'll look at one for boutiques. It's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to head over to the heat press and print our first design. It's going to focus a lot on the idea of printing for a restaurant or a business that's a little bit more prestigious and wants something that's a little bit more high-end. And so for this here, I've already taken out my 16 by 20 platen and dropped in a 6 by 10. This is going to allow me when I start to move to items like this shirt that has a lot of buttons, seams, zippers, all of that, to isolate that print area. And so these are really great accessories to have if you have a heat press that allows for interchanging out those bottom platens. The 6 by 10 is really a perfect choice for these types of applications. If you don't have the interchangeable platens, you could certainly do this. You would just want to look at purchasing some pillows or heat printing pads that can raise that print area from the buttons. So I've preheated my shirt, and then what I did here is I chose to move to a heat transfer material that's been cut on a vinyl cutter in CAD cut flock, and I did this for a couple of reasons. When we sell to these small businesses, what's going to happen is we're going to find that they're more likely to have a lower number of employees. So we're looking at 12 to 24 maybe in that range. So heat transfer vinyl makes a perfect sense because it's a lower quantity, so it's easy for me to cut these, customize them, and easily add the personalization without having a ton of cost of screens or screen printed transfers. The flock specifically is going to give me a premium finish that's very similar to embroidery, or gives that high-end look on the design. Also, as I'm sizing up my graphic here, very careful on the placement of my design. So I'm going about 5 inches down from the top seam of the shoulder as I pinch that together up there. Want to be careful not to go too far over. I'm going about 2 inches from the center of this shirt because of the tightness of this ladies fit shirt. And I want to be careful not to go too far over towards the armpit. I'm going to press flock at its recommended application for 10 to 15 seconds. It runs at 320 degrees. It's a standard temperature. Once I have that complete, it is going to be a cold peel, so I'm going to have to let this design completely cool down before I peel it back. But I just want to recap the idea of having this finish and why it kind of compares to embroidery. And so flock in general has a soft suede-like feel that we're going to see. That raised texture almost mimics embroidery, and so it gives you kind of that premium look that embroidery gets on a lot of these garments without having that cost or time of the embroidery machine. Looks like we're cool enough here, so I'm going to start to peel that carrier back and reveal that soft finish. And so if you haven't felt flock before, I recommend ordering a sample on Stahls.com so you can kind of get this in your shop and feel it, but it gives a nice raised dimensional look off of the item. And so what happens is you'll find that I'm able to get that premium look that I wanted on that shirt, and that works well maybe for this type of restaurant. Maybe this is a hostess shirt. Think about that when you're sourcing things for businesses as well. What else can I print for their employees? Maybe the aprons need personalization. Are there shirts for the chefs that need personalization? All of that is another thing to consider when we're printing. The next shirt that I want to look at, again, is going to use a heat transfer vinyl material because I'm going towards small quantities. I'm thinking about boutiques. I'm thinking about small businesses that have a dozen or 2 dozen employees, and so I'm going to move towards something that's more cost effective for this group. I'm going to drop in a 16 by 20. Actually, I'll drop in 11 by 15 for a lot of these ladies' garments here. And this time, this business's needs are going to be very different from the needs of the business that we just looked at. This one is actually going to be for a retail clothing boutique. And so we're no longer looking at a brand that's kind of wants a prestigious type premium look where they're going towards a higher end customer to sell to and keeping their brand that way. The brand for a clothing boutique like this that I might be selling their employees apparel to is going to be trendy, stylish blanks. While they want logoed apparel, they don't want it to look like logoed apparel, which kind of has that idea that it's going to be a polo shirt or a button-up. So we're choosing more trendy blanks, and the blanks that we're selecting. This one specifically was from Boxer Craft, and so we'll talk about a few different suppliers later in the class to source blanks from. But I really liked this shirt because it has a trendy, oversized feel to it. It's got a long length, so easily the employees could pair this with maybe a pair of leggings or skinny jeans, and it would fit the market that I'm looking to sell to. Now I'm just going to adjust my pressure as I preheat this since I've adjusted my platen in here from the 6 by 10. Once I have that set, I'm going to go ahead and line up my adhesive material. And this product is actually called CAD Cut Adhesive. The reason I chose this is I'm also thinking about the decoration that I'm using. And so we saw the decoration that we had used on that previous garment where we had actually chose to go with a more premium flock material. This is going to give me a premium foil finish when it's done. It's a 2-step application. So the CAD Cut Adhesive works as a base, and it's going to give me kind of a trendy print that's popular right now in boutiques and retail. And so the adhesive material just gets tacked down for about 3 to 5 seconds at 300 degrees. I'm going to peel back this carrier hot, and you're seeing that kind of wet adhesive look on the material that I have here. There is actually a material that does this. It's called Super Tech Clear Gloss. It kind of gives you that tonal effect, so if you like that, you could purchase that product. This adhesive is sticky, so I do definitely need to cover it up. I'm just going to cover it with a single color of foil here to show you the fast and easy way to get the standard foil, but there's a ton of advanced foil techniques that you can use. I'm going to cover this up with a cover sheet, and then before I press this for the final application, I am dialing in my pressure a little bit more. I want to go ahead with a firm pressure for a full 10 seconds at the 300 degrees, and that firm pressure is going to help to drive that foil onto my adhesive product. Cover sheet's very important because you kind of saw how it's curled up a little bit on the edges there, so the cover sheet helps to hold it down. That way I don't have any lifting in kind of the corners, which it could cause a print that's not perfectly premium and kind of high quality because it's going to have a little bit of flaking to it if it doesn't get that time to cool down on the adhesive. Once this is completely cool, see if we're there yet, good enough. We'll go ahead and start to peel this back. I'm actually getting a little warmth here, so let me peel that. You'll notice that the design only stuck where the adhesive was on the material, and it's created a really nice premium foil look. And so even think about what's popular when you're selling to these boutique stores in their location. And so if things are popular to them like foils, certain colors, all of that are things that you want to consider. And see if I can get that without a little bit of shine on that foil. But it creates a really unique, nice effect. And we have that long fitted shirt that's really popular, that's something a little bit more trendy than what we were seeing with a polo shirt or a woven. And so I'm going to head back over to the table and just kind of recap and talk a little bit about the two designs we just printed for small businesses. So the first concept we wanted to get and make sure we understand is just making sure the garment fits the customer, as does the decoration. So we chose to go with a heat transfer vinyl and CAD cut flock on the polo shirt. Heat transfer vinyl and vinyl cutting allows me to be able to personalize along with a heat press very cost effectively for these small businesses, and so it makes a perfect technology for this. Secondly, we looked at more of a trendy garment for a boutique or something that's branded as a little bit more higher end, something that's going to be more premium, and we did that with the CAD cut adhesive and the heat transfer foil over top of it. So those are some things to definitely consider. Now, when we price apparel for employees, we really price this the same way that we set up our pricing structures for other customers. And so when you're selling to small businesses, there aren't a whole lot of special considerations for employees' apparel in the pricing. And so if your business model is set up to go with a 200% markup for your pricing structure, then you want to stick with that. If you follow a pricing structure that follows profit per piece, then you would want to kind of follow that route for your pricing structure for these customers. So it falls along those same lines. However, you handle more of what I consider wholesale pricing, because wholesale pricing is, buying in bulk. So they're buying 12 or 24 at once, and you're pricing them for that. Now, of course, higher end finishes, flocks, foils, glitters, I do recommend charging the premium for those regardless of the market. And so keep that in mind. If you're offering a higher end finish, then they're going to want to pay for that higher end look. And so always show them the options they have available between the high end and maybe just a standard print and a matte finish. So that kind of covers a couple of opportunities with employees apparel. That's one small part of the opportunity. I'm sure in your local area or in your regional area, there are a ton of small businesses that you can sell to. They're popping up all over the place with a lot of these new trendier shops and boutiques and restaurants. And so it's growing the opportunity that decorators have to print employee apparel for them. But where I really see the big opportunity is being able to print apparel specifically to either place inside the boutique or place inside the small business like a restaurant and sell it almost as a marketing expense for the business. So those are two different opportunities in this side of the segment. So this is what I consider printing apparel and reselling it, kind of the merchandising retail segment and how to make money that way. The first thing we want to talk about is the blank garment selection. So there's two ways to take blank garment selection if you're going after this market. So let's say the first example that I want to use is selling into boutiques. So the boutique market is going to tend to be trendier, something a little bit more fashionable and a little bit more retail inspired in the blank that you're choosing. And so I want to look at a few different suppliers that we can look at for trendier blanks and things that if you're going to be sourcing the blank and also doing the decoration, they would be ideal places to look. Choosing the blank yourself and adding the decoration is always going to be 100% the safest and recommended route. If you can pitch a product line as far as a clothing line or a decorated garment to the customer and say these are the blanks, this is the decoration, you're going to be able to control a lot of the cost on the blank. You're going to be able to control a lot of the risk in printing garments because you know how they work. The other option is going to be printing the blank apparel that's actually in that clothing in that boutique shop. And so we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But I'm going to switch to my computer and look at a few of the trendy blank styles that are available today in our industry for sourcing for some of these different boutiques. And again, you want to keep the blank supplier or the brand that you're printing for in mind always when you're choosing the blank. So this is actually from Bella Canvas. If you haven't heard, they recently launched a product called Fast Fashion, which really follows the retail and the runway market that a lot of these boutiques are purchasing products from. So every month, new designs are launched, and you can kind of see the styling. It's more of what we see on the runway or in these fashion boutiques. And so it allows us in the wholesale market to get a hold of these blanks and print them for an inexpensive route. So they had a high neck tank or a men's drop shoulder shirt. This one over here kind of has a raw neck. And so it's a lot more of what we're seeing in the fashion market when you see this. And so if you're selling into boutiques that are looking for things that are a little bit more trendy, this is a great alternative. Sanmar also has a couple of lines that I wanted to highlight that I think work really well for boutiques depending on the customer base that they serve. And so Alternative Apparel, which is sold actually through Sanmar and through their own business, has a lot of different trendier styles for juniors apparel. And so this is where a lot of the clothing boutiques are starting to move towards more trendier, fashion-forward blanks like we're seeing here in the American Apparel or Alternative Apparel. And they also have two lines called District and District Made. And so their District Made is more of their juniors line. Here again, we're seeing a lot of tops that are popular in the fashion industry: cropped t-shirts, tank tops with large armholes, more muscle tank tops, a lot of color blocking. So a lot of things that you're seeing very trendy. And so these are just a few alternatives that I like from the wholesale market that tend to have a few different options for printing apparel. So Sanmar and Bella Canvas, both very fashion forward. We also looked at that design from Boxercraft, which has a lot of trendy pieces as well. So those are some things to consider if you're going to be sourcing the blank for them. Like I said, the other alternative is actually offering to print the apparel that they resell. The benefit of this is that they're choosing garments that they know are going to fit their clientele and they're going to fit the customers that come into their shop. And so they're more open to decoration if they know that the blank, it's just going to basically increase the value of the blank that they're already choosing to sell. The risk of this route for you as a decorator is, of course, spoilage if something happens. So if you have to have an issue with decoration, that would be a challenge. And the other challenge is a lot of these blanks in the fashion boutique market tend to be more heat sensitive, so they're more challenging to decorate. And so we need to make sure to set ourselves up as decorators with tools and with transfers that will help us to combat that if we run across some blanks that are heat sensitive, which are really popular today. So those are some things to consider with that. Now, when it comes to being concerned with spoilage and the garment decoration, I do want to mention it's always good, and we'll talk about this with strategy and setting up pricing, but setting up a contract with these boutiques. And so if you're going to print X amount of shirts, understanding that they have to provide you with an extra one or two for spoilage, because that's something that's going to happen, and you want to guard yourself against having to pay that cost if something happens to that blank. So that's kind of talking a little bit about garment selection. I have, I believe, 4 different examples that I want to talk about for boutique designs and different ways to reach them and different ideas. And so we're going to head over to the heat press, and I'll walk through those as we print them and as we talk through the designs. And so with boutique designs, mixed media really is popular. It really sells. If you walk in any boutique shop and you see anything that's decorated or with any kind of embellishment, you know you're seeing rhinestones, sequins, glitter, foils, along mixed with regular finishes. It's a lot of mixed media because that increases the value, which is what we want in that boutique or that retail market. And boutiques and retail markets tend to be a little bit more forgiving or a little bit more open to higher prices, especially because it's something you expect from a boutique. So again, I've chosen a trendier blank. This one is just from Bella Canvas. It is one of their slouchy t-shirts, so it's something that's a little bit more popular to what we're seeing in the retail market today. I'm going to mix it with 2 different materials, so we're going to look at a glitter heat transfer vinyl and CAD cut glitter flake, and we're going to mix in some foil as well just to create a unique effect. And so I'm going to go ahead and remove my designs here, slide them out of the way. Now to do this application, because I'm mixing glitter flake with heat transfer foil, I'm going to apply the glitter flake first. The reason for this is because it's the largest part of the design. Also, I know there's no challenges with the foil sticking to the glitter if I accidentally overlay it over part of the design, because the glitter won't allow for it to stick. But you always want to test this, because some vinyls, if it's a smooth vinyl or something standard, may let the foil also stick to it. So the glitter flake's just going to be tacked down for 3 to 5 seconds. All I want to do when I tack this material is get it to be able to be released from the carrier. I'll complete the full application in my next couple of steps, but that fast tack is going to allow me to eliminate a lot of time at the heat press, especially if I start to produce multiples of these for the business that I'm printing for. So I've got my glitter flake lined up there. The next step is to line up and inlay this CAD cut adhesive. And so again, it's just that clear adhesive. Both of these products have been cut on my vinyl cutter. And I'm going to cover this with my cover sheet. And I've lightened my pressure up already, so I just need to tack the adhesive for another 3 to 5 seconds. This is simply going to allow me to get the adhesive on the shirt so I can line up some foil. So peel back that carrier. Set that off to the side there, throw it away. And then I'm going to go ahead and cover the foil. And so, as I mentioned briefly, the benefit of doing the glitter flake is that I know this foil isn't, although it's overlapping, the glitter flake isn't going to stick to any areas of the glitter, but you do want to be careful when you start mixing and matching this foil product and making sure it's not going to stick to the foreground or to the other design that you have laying there, depending on the finish. We'll go ahead and tighten up the pressure since we have the foil overlaid, and this one's just a rainbow colored foil. And then apply this for 10 seconds at a firm pressure. And so when you think about designs and printing and pitching ideas to a lot of these businesses, you want to think about who are they selling to. Are they looking to just sell their blanks that are very trendy and unique with maybe some fun sayings? This one is just a quick saying. It says books, coffee, and mascara. Are they looking to maybe go towards a niche market? I know I'm in a large college area, so we have a lot of boutique shops that sell trendy boutique apparel to women in the college market. And so some of the designs that you'll see, and I'll print one here, for that kind of market and that customer base would be targeted towards the kind of college consumers. I've got that rainbow foil there. Mixing and matching that glitter along with the foil just to create something that's really trendy on a really stylish and trendy blank shirt there. So again, it pulls out a little bit of that foil, making that premium print. The glitter also creates some cool mixed media, and so now rather than that boutique simply just selling their popular blank shirt that maybe is just a slouchy t-shirt, they have something that's a little bit more unique, because now not only is it a unique blank for the boutique, but it's also unique in the application that it has some sayings and some fun stuff that's going to fit their customer. And so it's good, you know, if you're going to sell to a boutique, to really understand the customer that they're selling to, some things that are popular, maybe come up with a few designs with them that they would want printed on the apparel. But there's a huge profit opportunity for both you and them, and we'll talk about how to present that to them so they understand that as well. I'm going to look at another mixed media design that's maybe more from a male's market, and this features one of the fast fashion designs, or fast fashion t-shirts that we saw from Bella Canvas. So this one again has that raw neckline, so it's just something that's a little bit more fashionable to what we've been seeing for a long time in the wholesale market, and allows us to reach this end consumer a little bit differently. So I'm going to go ahead and load my shirt on my platen, making sure to get it completely flat, all the seams and everything off. That's another thing you'll find with a lot of these trendy blanks. They tend to be blend fabrics, so they have some tri-blend type capabilities to them where they're maybe a little bit heat sensitive. So being able to get the items completely flat like this, where all my seams are off, even the arm sleeves, is a huge benefit to avoid scorching. Now for this specific design, I actually have a two-color design. Now I'm going to lay the flock down first. Just want to make sure it's lined up correctly where I want the larger part of the design to be. And again, just like with the glitter flake, I'm going to apply the flock and mix it with the foil. Right now in the retail market or boutique shops, foil is a popular element to add to any design. And so that's why I'm choosing it right now a lot for adding some elements to these blanks that kind of elevate them. So CAD cut flock, the same product I had used on that polo shirt, is going to allow me to reach a different market or use it in a different way if I'm already selling to some small businesses and stocking that product on my shelf. Again, it is a cold peel, so I'm going to need to let it cool down completely before I complete the application. Looks like it's cool enough. That's usually what I aim for, cool enough if I'm going to be pressing back over it, because I know I'm going to reheat it, so it's not going to have any issues with durability if it lifted a little. Next, I'm going to go ahead and cover this up with that CAD cut adhesive. I know the foil is not going to stick to the flock material, so that's a big benefit of mixing this one as well as the glitter flake with the adhesive in this step process. If not, I would probably want to move towards putting the adhesive down first. It's 3 to 5 seconds on the adhesive. Peel back that sticky carrier. Then I'm going to cover the adhesive completely with a strong gold foil, and I'm going to mix and match this black and gold print to get something that's a little bit more fashionable. Again, just tightening up that pressure before I lock it down for its final application at a firm pressure, 300 degrees. Looks like I'm at 10 seconds there. And then I'm going to go ahead and let this cool down. And so thinking about different sayings, different things you can print, this design actually is going to be a little bit different than even the saying that we had just printed. This one's going to focus on a brand. And so there's a big opportunity for you to either create your own clothing brand or to print for the clothing brand company if the boutique has their own clothing brand within the store. And so this one takes a clothing brand, which the brand was called Keep Secret, and kind of brings that logo to life. So you could even pitch to the boutique to print their own clothing brand or their own logo that would be exclusive to their stores that wouldn't be sold in other locations, which gives, and when it's high-end like this or a premium finish, it's something that would give that company and that brand a unique element to add to their stores. And so this is just a really great example of that and another profit opportunity. So we have sayings, we have printing their own brand logos or private brands for their specific stores on some trendy blanks. And then I want to look at a solution for those options. So far we've looked at mixed media. Mixed media is always going to sell in the retail and the boutique shops. It's something you should be pitching. It's something you should be offering because it'll set you apart in that market. But as I had briefly mentioned earlier, a lot of the blanks in this industry, especially if you're looking to print the blanks that are provided to you by boutique shops, can tend to be heat sensitive. Heat sensitive, a lot of decorators tend to think of performance wear, but a lot of these fashion blanks that have viscose and rayon and polyester blends throughout the t-shirts are also heat sensitive. And so we want to look for a transfer that's lower temperature. It's going to help to avoid any scorching at that application. And so this one is just called CAD Cut Premium Plus. It will apply as low as 280 degrees, which helps me to avoid scorching, especially on darker colored fabrics, which tend to be popular. So charcoals, blacks, navies, all that good stuff. I'm going to go ahead and rotate my 11 by 15 platen so I can load this razorback tank on here. The nice thing about this 11 by 15 for this application is that when I thread this on, I don't have to worry about print through from the back of the razorback tank, which is something that's common. A lot of these trendier blanks have unique cuts to the back of the fabric or to the line, which can print through to the front, causing an inaccurate heat transfer. And so you want to be able to isolate that. And so threading in the way that I've just done helps to avoid that application. I do want to make sure I threaded this on straight, so I'm just going to pull it down completely and then go ahead and pull it back once I know I'm at the center of my design there. Okay. Give it a quick preheat. I am going to take my pressure back a little bit from the foil since Premium Plus just needs a medium pressure. And again, this was another saying design. I just kind of took the idea of the customer I was printing for was going to be in a local college boutique. They choose trendy blanks that are in the school colors. I chose a saying that was non-trademarked that would help kind of bring the atmosphere of fun football to their shop and allowing them to capitalize on those sales. I am going to press this for 8 to 10 seconds. I'm at 300 degrees since I've been printing a lot of other applications, but you could certainly take this down to 280 at the same time if the item was heat sensitive. And then Premium Plus is a warm peel, so we'll just give that a little bit of time to kind of cool down before I peel it. You just want to give the adhesive enough time to set before you start to peel that carrier off there. So give it a few shakes there to get some of the heat out. It looks like it's peeling well, so it must be cool enough. If I peeled it too early and it looked like it was peeling up in a corner, I could just repress it and it would be perfect. So that gives me a good option. So CAD-CUT Premium Plus is one of those good solutions when we need something lower temperature. We're trying to avoid scorching for a lot of these heat sensitive blanks that we're printing for this market. And so I'll set this aside, grab one more idea or one more concept before we talk about pricing and strategy for boutiques in general. So this last one is actually the idea going back to a brand or a clothing line. You may decide as a decorator that you want to develop a clothing line or that you want to print for a specific designer their own designs. And so we looked at one that was done with mixed media and a heat transfer vinyl. Heat transfer vinyl is going to allow you to do a variety of quantities, but it's ideal for low quantity applications. When I move towards quantities that are a little bit larger, I'm going to want to consider choosing a heat transfer that is going to be able to maximize any kind of cost savings for me. So screen printed transfers, which this would just be a plastisol ink that's been printed onto a release paper and then can be heat applied onto the item. And so this one has a ton of different logos that I've printed for the brand. This is what they call a gang sheet. If you've ever ordered screen printed transfers from a company like Transfer Express, which is where we ordered this transfer from. The benefit of gang sheeting is I can maximize the paper by adding all these logos together as long as the colors are the same and I'm not adding in a bunch of additional colors. And that way I can now just trim apart the designs I want, print them on whatever garments I want, and I'm ready to go. And so it really opens up a lot of flexibility that if you're printing the same design on a variety of shirts, just order the transfers, stock them in a box at your location, and then as the boutique continues to order more blanks or order more designs, you're able to easily stick them on, heat apply them, and send them out the door. And so you can really get some cost efficiency in the transfer you're ordering by ordering them in screen printed transfers. I'm going to go ahead and just load on one of the blanks here. This is just another fashionable blank from Bella Canvas. I chose to go with this. It's kind of like an acid wash, so it kind of has a unique print to it. Again, something that would fit this brand. This brand's market was to sell to a variety of younger, more teen type streetwear designs. If it was a ladies market, I would probably want to go towards something that was a fashionable ladies blank. So always choosing for the customer of the clothing line. And then when I went ahead and chose these transfers, I chose an ink selection that I knew would allow me to mix across a variety of blanks. And so this one here, I'm going to actually choose, let's see, to do this one, left chest logo. This blank, so I'm going to trim it off, line it up there. This transfer, which is called Elasti Prints, is ideal for lower temperature applications. So I'm kind of able to control this transfer, and it'll apply to cottons, a lot of the heat sensitive fabrics, it'll apply to polyester, and so I'm not really limited on what I can print by ordering all of these ganged up transfers. Now this transfer applies for 15 seconds at 300 degrees. So it's going to allow me again just to print a variety of items. And then while that's printing, it's going to be a cold peel, so we'll let that cool down. And I want to touch on another opportunity with screen printed transfers that you may have noticed on my gang sheet. That is some private labels that are on the back here. So really even some opportunities to really elevate the brand, whether it's by putting the boutique's logo on the apparel or your own brand's apparel, depending on how you want to brand it and how you work it out with the boutique. But I can now add my brand on the inside of the shirt as well, adding in the size and all of that. Transfer Express offers a template that allows you to very easily do this. If you go to their website, transferexpress.com, and use their Easy View Designer, you can certainly do this and order a ton of screen printed transfers and print the inside labels of any of your apparel. You would just want to purchase a blank that has a tearaway label. That way you could tear it out and add your own in there. Seems like my transfer is pretty cool, so I'll peel back the carrier here from the Elasti prints. I've got that 2-color design on my shirt, so now creating that branded apparel. And like I had mentioned, it kind of gives me an opportunity to start printing this apparel on a variety of blanks because I have these stock transfers, and now when they get their next line in and they have a dozen of new blanks they want printed, I can go ahead and personalize those with my transfers as they need them or as they come in. So I'm going to head back to the table here and talk through some of these designs and just kind of talk about pricing strategy and all of that when you're considering printing apparel for boutiques. And so I've touched a little bit on the garment selection, I've touched some on the heat transfer selection, but pricing when it comes to this market is something that's very interesting. And so the key to remember is that the boutiques in the retail market tend to be able to command a higher price or a higher list price than a lot of the wholesale market. And so, you don't have to be afraid to price it at a higher level than maybe you're pricing things at a wholesale market if you're selling to other markets like schools or cheer and dance. But when you think about it that way, you really need to be able to charge that higher price because you need to make a profit, as does the boutique. This is a business partnership that if they're going to be selling your apparel, they're going to be wanting a percentage of the sell. Likewise, if you're printing their apparel, they want to make sure they know that they're getting a profitable opportunity and this is worth adding the value to the blanks that they're already selling. And so there usually additionally has to be some kind of benefit to them. So one thing I would recommend first is pricing your decoration. So you want to create a pricing grid that works for the customer if you're looking to print their apparel. This way they understand if they add a special effect like a foil or a glitter, then it's going to be a higher price than a basic finish. And so having a pricing grid that's out front that basically says, this is my pricing for services for any of the decoration on your garments. The other thing to consider is that when you start to sell blanks and decoration together, that's where you want to be able to come at them and offer a solution as far as selling branded apparel or selling blanks that are decorated that you're selling in their shop for them. If you go that route, you want to be able to show them kind of the recommended selling price. So I would have a grid that says, here are the 5 designs that I would sell through your store. They could be the 5 designs I just printed here. Here is the profit opportunity. So this is your cost. This is what I recommend that you list this for. Set their cost at something that allows you to specifically make the profits that you need to on the job, but then also show them the profits they can make. And so if this is your cost and this is your MSRP or the recommended price that I'm recommending you sell this at, this is the profit you stand to make by selling my printed apparel in your shop. And so it's more valuable for you to sell this, adds more revenue into your business. And so that's a great way to win them over. If you are going this route, or regardless which route you go, I recommend setting up a contract with them. I had mentioned earlier about spoilage and scorching garments. You would certainly want to include that in the contract with them so that if you're printing their apparel and you ruin something, you're not responsible for replacing it or paying the fee. So they understand that's a cost of doing business and a risk that's occurred with each job. Also setting up a minimum order quantity. And so being able to set up a minimum order they have to order in order for you to process it. And so this way you're not getting, I need 5 more of these in small, or I need 3 more of these, because they're trying to limit the inventory and the cost they have on hand. Setting up a minimum order quantity where you're saying you have to order 25 every time you order this decoration on this shirt. So that way it keeps control in your shop and you're not constantly having to produce 1 or 2 blanks or 5 or 6 blanks for this boutique. You're able to control it and manage the inventory and manage your shop a little bit better for ordering. So those are a couple things to consider with pricing for small businesses and boutiques. Setting up a pricing structure for decoration. That way you're able to pitch this to them and let them know straight up what their cost would be for you to do decoration on their blanks. Also making sure you're letting them know the benefit, the value, and the cost or the profit that they're going to be able to make by now selling printed apparel versus blank. The other option is that you start to sell them designs that you're creating or designs that you're printing for them with a brand. If you go that route, then I would want to make sure they're noticing if they can sell this, what the kickback is, and what the profit opportunity is for them to sell those items. The last opportunity I want to touch on is selling apparel for small businesses like restaurants and bars. This is very separate from this boutique-y market, which has a lot of fashionable, high-end blanks, has a lot of opportunity for high prices, special effects. When we look at the restaurant bar segment, there are a ton of opportunities to print apparel for them to stock either at the front of their locations or in gift shops at their locations for them to be reselling. This traditionally tends to be items that are a little bit more of a value piece, so a t-shirt, a sweatshirt, something that's a little bit less expensive and screen printed. Usually it's mass decoration on these items. Now, of course, there are a lot of trendy small restaurants and bars and things that are popping up all over the United States. So keep in mind that when you're pitching products to these, if the feel of the restaurant that you're going into is very trendy and very spot on and the employee apparel is like that, they're probably going to want to sell blanks that mimic that. And so you may want to look at some of those blanks that we saw from Sanmar that were like the district made or the district line. They were a little bit more trendy in their application. Regardless, what I recommend doing is ordering screen printed transfers. So again, I just ordered a standard value blank. I think this is just a Gildan, and some screen printed transfers. So I'll press these here as we talk through pricing and structures and everything for that, just to show the other example. Here, again, I ordered screen printed transfers, made sure to gang them up so I was able to save some cost. You could do full front decoration. I just have another small left chest logo here for this design to show as an example. And I'm using Elasti prints, but there's a variety of transfers that would work for this application. And that screen printed transfer is just going to give me that big cost benefit that I was looking for, so I can order a ton of them at once and then print my design. Let this apply for 15 seconds at 300 degrees. And then when you start to think about restaurants, bars, things like that, and the way we sell to them or the way that we profit with their designs, remember again that the goal of this is for them to make a profit. And so they need to, what you're selling to them is they need to understand that they're going to make a profit on this, and you need to price it in a way that allows them to make a profit. And so the costs for these items are going to be less expensive than what you're probably selling to retail boutiques for, because you're selling them in mass quantity, they're screen printed, and you're using a valuable, less expensive blank, and that allows you to keep that cost low. And again, when you sell to them, make sure you set up, this is the example here, I pulled that carrier off. But when you're selling to them, make sure you're setting up a pricing grid that allows them to see if you sell these blanks. This one's just a muscle tank top. So let's say I walk in to Mickey's Bar and Grill and I show them 5 different blanks that they could sell in their gift shop. With each of those items, I would want to make sure they understand the cost per piece, as well as the profit opportunity per piece. So the MSRP and then the difference. So they're able to see, wow, if I add this into my shop, or if I add this into my restaurant and I start to sell 100 items a month, I can now bring in this additional revenue, and it's money that's basically just coming in for very little work, because the hostess may already be up front. She's the one processing the orders, and allows them to even get more branded apparel out in the area, and so it helps to promote their business as well. So there's a huge benefit to this, especially for the restaurant and bar segment. So I'm going to head back over to the table here, and I'll take any questions you guys have as we recap different ways to sell to small businesses and boutiques. I think as you guys can see here, there's a huge profit opportunity. There's 2 opportunities that are available: selling the employee apparel and then selling apparel into the boutique or into the restaurant or the bar. Depending on the location that you're in, there's a variety of small businesses all over the local area that you can start reaching out to for those 2 opportunities. Once you decide what customer you want to go to, choose a blank selection that fits them and fits their either their brand or their customer style. Decoration should also fit their brand and fit their customer style. And then lastly, think about pricing and structure. If you're going to sell and resell, you need to make sure you provide the value to them as to why they should add this service into their location. what is the value for them to add decorated apparel into their shop. Karen, have I gotten any questions throughout the episode? Okay, perfect. Well, I appreciate each and every one of you coming and joining with me today. We have more live classes throughout the month. Next week, we have one on monogramming. That'll be on the 17th, so if you haven't registered for that, you can head over to stahlstv.com on the live events page and see all that we have planned throughout the end of the year. Thanks for coming.